Today I want to share 15 tiny tricks you can use to eliminate visual clutter from your space. Little things you can do to make your home appear minimalist, even if you don't identify as a minimalist. Because believe me, I know I get stressed out when my home gets chaotic or messy. And so doing these little hacks might not only make your guests feel more welcome, but also help your mood. First tip is to have a clutter transition zone, basically an easily accessible storage space where you can just drop things that are in transition. You know, when you're going about your day and you accumulate things, maybe you went shopping or brought in the mail and you just don't know what to do with it and you don't have the time to really deal with it and put it away properly. Well, having a hidden drop zone can make it easier to keep that visual clutter at bay. Of course, you have to make sure to regularly go through that drop zone, but you can do it at a time that's more convenient to you. Of course, this also means that you probably have to do some decluttering in order to have a little bit of a drop zone space. But ultimately, if you have that quick spot, then your space doesn't become overrun with stuff. A second tip is to keep papers in a clear pile rather than scattered throughout your home. I know sometimes when I'm bringing in the mail or I have little notes that I took during the day at work, I just plop them somewhere and I don't really think about where I'm putting them, and then gradually I have all these piles across my house and I can't seem to find the thing I need when I need it. So having a designated spot to put papers when they're not in use can make your life a whole lot easier and reduce that visual clutter. A third tip is to use texture. Use textiles that have some dimension, that are soft and therefore feel luxurious. It's an easy way to add a little bit of visual interest to the space without adding more stuff. And thinking about using good quality textiles reminds me of the sponsor of today's video. I'm gonna share a little bit about them, but don't go away because I have a ton of other tricks. Boll & Branch creates the most beautiful bedding. I personally have their signature sheet set, their duvet set, and their beautiful waffle blanket that also adds some texture. And can I just say, I believe their sheets are the most luxurious soft ones on the market. What's interesting is that the conventional thinking goes the higher the thread count, the better the sheets, but that's actually not true. Thread count is not an accurate indicator of quality or softness. That's actually kind of a marketing myth. What's more important is the thread quality. And what's wonderful is that Boll & Branch doesn't use all these harsh chemicals that a lot of sheet companies use to make their sheets feel softer, which only lasts for so long. They use 100% organic cotton. They get softer with every wash, and I've had a set of these for about a year, and I can honestly attest to the truth of that. These sheets will not pill or shrink. These will really stand the test of time, unlike other sheets that will only get less soft over time. The signature sheet set are literally my favorite sheets, and all of their products are just high quality. What's really exciting is that I have a special offer for you, the best of the season for this company. You can get 20% off using the promo code ELIN20, E-L-I-N-20. Be sure to check the website for details. Anyway, let's keep going with the video. A fourth tip is to pick a clear color scheme. Think about including 3 to 5 colors that create the tone for the space. Some of them can be neutrals, but constraining your design to those colors can really make the space feel cohesive and less overwhelming. Now, that being said, I don't want to be totally against something eclectic or rainbow filled. So if that's your preference, just be sure to keep the space heterogeneous. If you have too much of one color over here and another color over there, and they're not kind of melded and combined, then it can feel more disjointed. So basically, just be very thoughtful about how you're using color in your space, and maybe use a little restraint here or there. A fifth tip is to eliminate excessive display trinkets or decor. And maybe this one feels obvious, but I think sometimes we go clutter blind where things have just been there for months or years and we don't really notice them anymore, but they're actually adding to the chaos in the space. And so what you can do is use what I call the fresh eye trick, where you walk into the space and kind of pretend like you're a guest, like you've never seen it before, it's the first time you're seeing the space, and see where you notice clutter, where your eye is drawn. You can also take a photo if that's helpful, in order to focus on how the clutter looks overall in the space. I think it's important to just every once in a while reevaluate whether the items in your space, even if they're meant to be decorative, whether they're getting a little bit cluttered, whether they were too trendy and they're not even in style anymore, and whether you really want to bring them into your future. A sixth one is to have an occasional blank wall. I don't know why, but when I have a blank wall in a room, it just feels less overwhelming to me, and then it also draws your eye to the art that is there. If you have too much, sometimes you just can't appreciate the pieces that you do have. So just because you have art to put on the walls doesn't mean you need to use them or hang them. A seventh tip is to keep only what you need out and accessible. For example, I used to have a couple of massive blankets of a bunch of different throw blankets just at the ready in case guests came over, but this was even when I was living alone, and it wasn't like that was happening every day. They didn't need to be out all the time. And so now I've just kind of limited myself to one basket and maybe one or two blankets that are there at the ready. And then if I have guests over, I can always go into a closet and find more blankets. An eighth one is to hide electronics as much as possible. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the fact that electronics are sterile and they just have a different look than a lot of other decor that you find in homes. But I feel like electronics just can bring down the entire look of a space. That's one reason why I got the Samsung Frame TV that kind of blends into the background. But even if you can't do that, just think about, are you putting your laptop away? Are you putting your cords away? Do you have an easily accessible shelf to put those things that aren't hard to get to so that you actually put those electronics away when you're not using them? A ninth tip is beyond decluttering, go through your belongings regularly and be sure to clean under them, especially the things that are sitting out. Sometimes if I have a display area or a shelf, I forget to actually go up there and do the deep cleaning that space needs. But keeping your spaces clean and fresh will make your overall space feel more airy and streamlined. A 10th tip is to know yourself and know if there is a particular area of your life or category that is inevitably going to build up with clutter. Just make sure it's in a zone in your home that's not immediate when you walk in or right there in your face when guests come in. Keep it in some area that's a little bit more hidden away. An example for me is my recording studio space. I'm not recording there today, but I do have a space in my home, a little niche in my basement that is totally dedicated as a studio. And that's nice for me because then I can leave the shooting gear up, which takes a lot of time to fold up and down, and then by the time I get it out, then I'm too tired to shoot. Anyway, having it there makes it so much easier for me to shoot these videos, but it does not look the best. But at the end of the day, my studio zone, where I keep all the gear and where I shoot most videos, is in that basement niche, an area that you don't typically see as a guest and that I only see when I go down in there to shoot a video. An 11th tip is to reconnect with what a room is for functionally. Sometimes we start to just add clutter or items to a room because we think they might look better or it might add something to the space, but we forget to think about what is the purpose of the space and do I really need this object for that purpose? And so going through your home and thinking about what is this space for, what do I need here, what do I like here, and then what is just excessive can help you focus on what's important. A 12th hack is to use larger pieces as statements in the space rather than little trinkets. So for example, use a really beautiful couch or a chair or a big throw blanket to create texture or interest in the room rather than adding a bunch of little things. Sometimes that means investing in a slightly more expensive version of that big piece rather than spending extra money buying a bunch of little things to enhance the space. A 13th tip is just a personal preference of mine, so of course take it or leave it, but I think you should get rid of those word signs that you put around your home. So often when there are words on the wall, I feel like subliminally your brain just has to read them and you have to process them. And so not only do guests, when they come in, process what's written on the wall and focus on that for a second, but also every time you enter the room, you might get into the habit of kind of like reading that word or at least subliminally reading it on some level and having that take up some of your cognitive space. In my opinion, just eliminate the words. A 14th one is to minimize refrigerator art or cards. it actually reduces the overall chaos of your kitchen space. At least I think so. So just be very choosy about what to put on the fridge. Maybe even try out for a week having absolutely nothing on the fridge. It'll make you feel like maybe you're in a hotel room or resort. It's just a little something that makes it feel more streamlined. A 15th tip is to build in little tidying bursts to your day. So basically, throughout your day, do little things to tidy your space and to put things where they go. I mean, especially if you work from home, when you move from one room to another, just bring something with you. Throw it in the kitchen if it goes in the kitchen. But even if you don't work from home, if you have 5 minutes in the morning to tidy up and 5 minutes before bed, already you're gonna see a big difference in your space. At least for me, it's when I let it build up over days and days that the clutter becomes overwhelming and not fun at all. So see how you, and maybe even you with family members if you live with others, can consciously, in a planful way, integrate just little spurts of tidying into your day. Anyway, those were my tips for reducing visual clutter. I hope you found them helpful. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. Thanks so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye.